Ethan, this is our 10th engagement party, and our last. I, Tiffany Monroe, am announcing to all our friends and family that I will never marry this useless charity case. A wave of derisive laughter washed over the ballroom, but I just watched her numb. 10 years. 10 times she'd used my dignity as a stepping stone to build her family's empire. And this time, the man standing beside her was the son of New York's wealthiest tycoon. I clenched my fist around the ring I'd spent a decade preparing, hidden in my pocket, and turned to leave. From a corner of the room, a woman in a severe black dress, her aura as cold as ice, raised a glass to me. Her eyes looked at me like I was a priceless treasure she'd just discovered. Tiffany, you say that one more time. Old man Monroe, the family patriarch, was trembling with rage, his cane thudding against the polished marble floor. Tiffany linked her arm through the handsome, tuxedo-clad man beside her, her face showing no remorse, only a cruel satisfaction. Grandpa, I made myself perfectly clear. I, Tiffany Monroe, would rather die than marry a loser like Ethan Reed. The man at her side, Blake Vanderbilt, the sole heir to the Vanderbilt fortune, shot me a disdainful look and pulled Tiffany tighter against him, as if claiming his prize. Ms. Monroe is right. How could a woman of her caliber marry a man who doesn't even have a job? A man who spends all day in a rundown loft, tinkering with garbage. Garbage? I laughed internally, my face a mask of calm. My name is Ethan Reed. I'm an orphan. 10 years ago, Grandfather Monroe found me at a Brooklyn flea market. He saw I was struggling, but had a unique talent for restoring antiques. So he took me in and arranged for me to be engaged to his granddaughter, Tiffany. 10 years. A full decade. From 18 to 28. My entire life has been a stage for Tiffany's never-ending drama of breaking off our engagement. The first time, she said I didn't have the right degree to match her, a fresh Yale graduate. So I stepped aside. The second time, she said I didn't have a real career and couldn't give her a future. So I stepped aside again. The third time, the fourth. Each time, she had a new excuse and a new man by her side who was 100 times more successful than me. And with each man, the Monroe family leveraged their connections, climbing from a small, failing business to the multi-billion-dollar corporation it was today. Today, it was the 10th time, and it was the grandest performance of all. The Monroes had booked the entire penthouse ballroom of the Four Seasons. The guest list was a who's who of New York's elite. They weren't here to celebrate. They were here for the spectacle. To watch me, New York's most famous freeloader, get dumped for the 10th and final time. I looked at Tiffany on the stage, radiant and beautiful. The triumphant, final look on her face was a razor-sharp knife, severing the last thread of warmth I had for her. For 10 years, I thought even a stone could be warmed by dedication. I thought that one day, she would see the real me. I silently slipped my hand into my pocket and touched a small velvet box. Inside was a pendant, carved from a single, flawless raw emerald into the shape of a mythical phoenix. I'd worked on it for 3 years. It was meant to be my gift to her today. Now it seemed it was just as worthless as my devotion. Ethan, are you still hanging around? Hoping for a severance package. Blake Vanderbilt sneered, leading Tiffany down from the stage. He looked down his nose at me. Name your price. 100 grand? A million? Just stay away from Tiffany from now on. Tiffany's mother, a woman who had never hidden her disdain for me, chimed in, her voice dripping with acid. Ethan, our family has fed and clothed you for 10 years. That's enough. Mr. Vanderbilt is offering you money. That's more than you deserve. Don't be ungrateful. The guests around us whispered and pointed. So that's the guy who's been leeching off the Monroes? He's handsome, I guess, but what a waste. I heard he doesn't even own a decent suit. The one he's wearing was a handout from the Monroes. Tiffany finally came to her senses. She and Blake are a true power couple. I ignored the daggers in their words, my eyes fixed on Tiffany, searching for a flicker of doubt, a hint of regret. There was nothing, only cold, hard disgust. Slowly, I let the velvet box slide back into the depths of my pocket. I turned and walked toward the ballroom doors, my back straight. 10 years. This farce was finally over. Just as I reached the threshold, a cool female voice cut through the murmur of the crowd. It wasn't loud, but carried across the entire hall with perfect clarity. Wait. I stopped and looked back. From a shadowed corner, A woman in a black power suit rose to her feet. She was tall and stunningly beautiful, but her face was an elegant, frozen mask. Her sharp, intelligent eyes seemed to hold the chill of 1,000 winters. Her presence was electric. The moment she stood, the entire ballroom fell silent. All eyes were on her, a mixture of awe and confusion. Blake Vanderbilt frowned. He clearly didn't recognize her, but he could sense the immense power she radiated. This was not someone to be trifled with. "And you are?" Blake asked, a note of caution in his voice. The woman ignored him. Her gaze was locked on me. She started walking toward me, her heels clicking on the marble floor, each step a hammer blow against the silent heart of the room. "Is that Ms. Sterling?" Someone whispered, sucking in a breath. "Which Ms. Sterling? Which one do you think?" "Ava Sterling, of Sterling Industries." "Oh my God, what is she doing here?" Sterling Industries, the titan of American commerce, a true corporate empire. And Ava Sterling was the empress at its helm, a legend known for her ruthless business acumen and untouchable beauty. She was a figure people admired from a great distance, but never dared approach. The color drained from Blake Vanderbilt's face. Next to Sterling Industries, his family's fortune was pocket change. He quickly pasted on a sycophantic smile. "Ms. Sterling, what an honor. I'm so sorry, I didn't see you come in." Ava Sterling didn't even glance at him. She walked right up to me and stopped. A faint, cool fragrance like winter jasmine drifted around me. She was half a head shorter than me, but her aura was so powerful it felt like she towered over me. "They say you're a loser," she said, her voice cool and crisp, but with a barely perceptible hint of amusement. I said nothing, just met her gaze. "They say you're worthless," she continued. The room was utterly silent. Everyone held their breath, wondering what this goddess of the corporate world was doing. Tiffany's face had gone pale, a knot of dread tightening in her stomach. Ava Sterling suddenly reached out. Her long, slender fingers gently brushed the lapel of my suit jacket, flicking away a piece of lint that wasn't there. The gesture was light, but it carried an undeniable weight of authority. "Ethan Reed," she said, lifting her eyes to meet mine. In those icy depths, a universe of stars seemed to swirl. "I'm offering you 10% of Sterling Industries to be my new CEO. Are you interested?" Her words landed, and the world stopped. Everyone looked like they had been struck by lightning, frozen in place. 10% of Sterling Industries? That was hundreds of billions of dollars. CEO? That was the second in command of a global empire. Tiffany's face turned a ghostly white. She stumbled, staring at me in disbelief, then at Ava. Blake's smile was frozen on his face, a grotesque, comical mask. I looked at Ava Sterling, at the determined, possessive light in her eyes, and felt nothing. A profound calm. I shook my head. As everyone stared, Mouse Agape, I spoke, my voice quiet but clear. "No, thank you." "What did you say?" Ava Sterling's eyes narrowed, and a dangerous energy radiated from her. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. This was the first time anyone had ever publicly refused her, and so bluntly. I said, "No, thank you." I repeated, my tone as flat as if I were discussing the weather. Ava stared at me, trying to read something on my face, but there was only a vast, tired emptiness. "Why?" she asked, genuinely perplexed. She couldn't fathom what kind of man could turn down an offer that was tantamount to ascending to godhood. "Ms. Sterling," I said, a bitter, self-mocking smile touching my lips. "I'm just a loser. I'm not qualified for a job that big." With that, I turned and walked away, not looking back. This time, no one stopped me. They all just stared as if I were a madman. Tiffany swayed, barely able to stand. She didn't understand. How did any of this happen? How did the worthless loser she'd cast aside attract the attention of Ava Sterling, and then reject her? Blake's expression was murderous. Ava's appearance, and her baffling interest in me, was a slap in the face. He had just been flaunting his wealth, mocking my poverty, and in the blink of an eye, I had become the object of desire for a woman who could buy and sell his entire family 1,000 times over. He looked like a pathetic clown. I stepped out of the hotel. The night air was cool on my face. I didn't go home. The Monroe Mansion wasn't my home anymore. I had a small loft in an old warehouse district in Brooklyn. That was my real sanctuary. The loft was cluttered, filled from floor to ceiling with what most people would call junk. Shattered porcelain vases, fractured jade bracelets, rotting wood carvings, faded and torn ancient scrolls. To outsiders, it was garbage. To me, it was a trove of priceless treasures. My name is Ethan Reed, but I have another name. In the exclusive, hidden world of art restoration, I am known only as the Alchemist. It's a name whispered in hushed, reverent tones. No one knows what I look like, where I came from. They only know that any artifact touched by the alchemist is returned to its original, flawless state, the restoration seamless, the work divine. A tech billionaire once offered $100 million just to have me restore a damaged piece of Song Dynasty porcelain. He couldn't even find a way to contact me. This was my true worth. This was the secret that had allowed me to endure 10 years of humiliation at the hands of the Monroes. I thought I was enduring it to protect my love for Tiffany. How ridiculous that seemed now. I stripped off the ill-fitting suit, a symbol of my servitude, and tossed it on the floor. I changed in my usual comfortable canvas pants and a worn t-shirt. Then, from a dusty corner, I retrieved a weathered wooden case. I opened it. Inside, nestled in worn velvet, were 12 golden needles as fine as strands of hair. These are my tools. They were the only thing my mentor, my grandfather, left me. He called them the Aegis needles. Legend had it they could restore the true form of anything in the world. I took a deep breath and pulled the velvet box with the phoenix pendant from my pocket. I looked at the piece that had cost me 3 years of my life, a flicker of pain in my eyes, quickly replaced by cold resolve. I took one of the golden needles, aiming for the most delicate joint in the carving. Just then, someone knocked on the door of my loft. Knock, knock, knock. The rhythm was steady, unhurried. I frowned. No one had ever come here before. I walked over and opened the door. Standing outside was Ava Sterling. 2 black-suited bodyguards stood behind her, but she waved them off, telling them to wait downstairs. She stood alone in the gritty hallway, a stark contrast to her surroundings. Yet somehow, she didn't look out of place at all. "Where did you find me?" I asked. "If I want to find someone, I find them," she replied, her gaze sweeping past me into the loft. When her eyes fell on the room full of junk, that icy composure finally broke, replaced by a blazing, predatory light. It was the look of a hunter who has finally cornered her magnificent prey. Without waiting for an invitation, she strode inside as if she owned the place. She walked to a workbench where I'd just finished restoring a Tang Dynasty ceramic horse. Its leg had been shattered, but using the Aegis needles, I had made it whole again, without a single visible seam. "Sublime," Ava murmured, running a delicate finger over the horse's leg, a note of genuine awe in her voice. She turned to face me, her eyes burning. "And you still want to tell me you're a loser? Mr. Alchemist." My heart stopped. She knew. "I don't know what you're talking about," I said, my face impassive. "Don't you?" A slight curve touched her lips. A month ago, a lost Picasso, The Weeping Woman in Blue, was unveiled at Christie's. But according to my sources, that painting was destroyed in a fire a century ago, with less than a third of the canvas surviving. The restorer who brought it back signed his work with a single alchemical symbol. She paused, her eyes fixed on mine. 6 months ago, the Met secretly restored a Roman gladiator's helmet, which had been crushed into over 100 pieces when it was excavated. The man who accomplished that impossible task was known only by the codename, the Alchemist. She took a step closer, her presence overwhelming. 3 years ago. Enough. I cut her off. "What do you want?" My identity was my greatest secret. If it got out, I'd be hounded by every collector and museum in the world. This woman had done her homework. "I told you. I want to hire you," Ava said, her voice intense. "I need your hands. I need you to restore something for me." "I refuse," I said without hesitation. "Don't be so quick to refuse." She seemed to expect my answer. From her Hermes bag, she pulled out a faded photograph and handed it to me. It was an old, yellowed picture of a gentle-faced woman holding a baby. The moment I saw it, my world shattered. My whole body began to tremble as I snatched the photo from her hand. "Where? Where is she?" My voice was a raw, choked whisper. The woman in the photo was my mother. I have no memory of my parents. My grandfather told me they left on a long trip when I was very young and never came back. This photograph was the only connection I had to her. Agree to help me, and I'll take you to her, Ava said, a flicker of some unreadable emotion in her eyes. You're lying. I stared at her, my eyes wild. If you knew where she was, why didn't you tell me before? Because the object I need you to restore is connected to her, Ava said slowly. It's the only key to finding out what happened to her. And it's broken. A key? I stared at Ava, trying to see through her glacial facade, to tell if she was lying. I had spent 10 years searching for any clue about my parents. It was as if they had vanished from the face of the earth. And now, this woman appears out of nowhere, claiming to have the answer. It felt like a trap, one perfectly designed for me, one I couldn't refuse. Show me the object, I said, my voice low and heavy. As if she knew I would agree, she made a call. A moment later, one of her bodyguards brought up a special reinforced alloy briefcase. He opened it, revealing an object wrapped in layers of silk. Ava carefully unwrapped it. Inside was an octagonal compass about the size of my palm. It was forged from some unknown gunmetal black metal and covered in dense, intricate glyphs that looked like ancient script. In the center, where a needle should have been, there was only an empty hole. Worse, the entire compass had been split clean in two, right down the middle. It's called the Astral Compass, Ava said, her voice grave. Legend says it can locate the great ley lines of the world. But it has another function. It can find a person of a specific bloodline. She looked at me pointedly, like your mother. My eyes were glued to the compass. One look was all it took for me to know that its craftsmanship was beyond modern technology. The glyphs, which seemed random, held a kind of cosmic logic. And the crack. It wasn't a simple break. Some impossibly powerful force had shattered it from within. Restoring it would be 100 times more difficult than fixing that Roman helmet. Why me? I asked. Because you're the alchemist, she answered simply. If there is one person on this earth who can fix this, it's you. How can I trust you? I picked up half of the compass. It was cold to the touch, emanating an ancient, desolate energy. You have no choice, Ava said, her eyes sharp as daggers. You can choose not to believe me. You can stay here in your dusty loft, guarding your precious junk, mourning your pathetic love life. Or you can choose to believe me and uncover the truth of your parents' disappearance. Her words were needles piercing my heart. Pathetic love life. Yes, 10 years of devotion for 10 public humiliations. What else could you call it? I tightened my grip on the compass. The cold metal helped clear my head. To fix this, I said, looking up at her, I'll need a specific material. Stygian iron. Stygian iron, a mythical meteoric metal, said to be impossibly hard, yet incredibly conductive. The perfect material for repairing an artifact like this. But it was a thing of legend, impossibly rare. I thought the request would make her give up. To my surprise, Ava just smiled faintly. I've already acquired it. She made another call. A few moments later, the other bodyguard came up with a smaller, heavier case. He opened it. Inside lay a fist-sized chunk of metal, as black as a starless night. It was real. It was actually Stygian iron. My mind reeled. Who was this woman? How could she get her hands on something that shouldn't even exist? Do you have any other questions? Ava asked. I was silent. She had planned for everything, leading me step by step into a game I couldn't refuse. I had no reason and no power to say no. I have one condition, I said, taking a deep breath. Name it. During the restoration, I can't be disturbed by anyone, including you. Ava looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. Done. My men will stand guard outside. They will take care of your food and any other needs. Just give them a list of any materials you require. She paused. I'll give you 1 month. A month? I frowned. That's not enough. The damage to this thing is far worse than you can imagine. I can't wait any longer. Her tone was final. If you can't fix it in a month, I'll have to find someone else. I understood. This was her final offer. Fine, I nodded. Without another word, Ava Sterling turned and left my loft. After she was gone, I stood looking at the broken compass and the Stygian iron, my mind a whirlwind. My life, it seemed, had just been violently thrown onto a new, unknown track. Meanwhile, at the Monroe mansion, Ava Sterling's appearance and her world-shattering offer had thrown the entire family into chaos. The engagement party had ended in disaster. Blake Vanderbilt had left without a word, his face a thundercloud. The look he gave Tiffany as he walked out was as if he were looking at a stranger. She knew it was over between them. She had not only failed to secure the Vanderbilt alliance, but she had also made an enemy of Ava Sterling. What in the world just happened? How is that loser Ethan involved with Ava Sterling? Tiffany's mother shrieked, unable to accept reality. Grandfather Monroe sat in his wingback chair, his face ashen, saying nothing. When he first took me in, it was partly out of pity, but he had also seen something extraordinary hidden within me. He had hoped I would become a great asset to the family. He never imagined Tiffany would push me away again and again. Now it seemed that uncut diamond was about to be claimed by someone else. Tiffany, call Ethan right now. Apologize to him. The old man finally spoke, his voice hoarse. What? Apologize to him? Tiffany cried. Why should I? He's a nobody. A nobody, her grandfather sneered. A nobody that Ava Sterling would offer billions for? Have you ever seen a nobody like that? I'm telling you, we were all blind. There's more to Ethan Reed than any of us ever knew. Tiffany was speechless. She kept replaying the look in Ava's eyes when she looked at me. It was a look of admiration, of absolute certainty. She had never seen anyone look at anyone like that before. A strange mix of panic and jealousy began to consume her. She took out her phone, her hands trembling as she found a number she knew by heart, and dialed. The phone rang and rang. Just as she was about to give up, someone answered. But it wasn't my voice. It was a cold, professional male voice. Hello, Sterling Industry Security. Mr. Reed is engaged in a classified project. For the next month, he will not be accepting any calls or visitors. The line went dead. Tiffany stood frozen, phone in hand, her mind a total blank. Sterling Industries Security? A classified project? Each word was a hammer blow to her heart. Not long ago, I was her shadow, the boy who would come running whenever she called, no matter how terribly she treated me. Now, she couldn't even speak to me without going through a corporate firewall. An overwhelming sense of loss and regret washed over her, drowning her. Well, what did he say? Her mother asked impatiently. Tiffany just shook her head, looking lost. It was someone from Sterling Industries. They said, he won't see anyone for a month. Damn it. Grandfather Monroe slammed his fist on the table. This is all you're doing. The greatest opportunity our family ever had, and you threw it away. Tears finally streamed down Tiffany's face. She didn't understand how it all went so wrong. She just wanted a better life, a better match. Was that so wrong? She just didn't want to marry a man who seemed to have nothing. Was that so wrong? But when she saw the price Ava Sterling was willing to pay for me, all her pride, all her sense of superiority crumbled to dust. It turned out I wasn't the one who wasn't good enough for her. It was she who had never been good enough to see the real me. In my loft, I carefully placed the two halves of the astral compass on my workbench. Ava's people were efficient. In less than half a day, they had delivered a complete set of top-of-the-line restoration tools, exactly to my specifications. A forge, micro-carving tools, even several complex instruments whose names I didn't know. I sat cross-legged on the floor, closed my eyes, and began to regulate my breathing. Restoring the compass wasn't just a matter of skill. It was a matter of spirit. I had to achieve a state of perfect tranquility to use the most profound technique of the Aegis needles, the art of reconstitution. Time ticked by. My mind was a chaotic storm of memories from the last 10 years. Every broken engagement, every mocking word from Tiffany, every condescending glance from the party guests replayed in my head like a film. These humiliating memories were like demons, disturbing my focus. No, I have to get rid of them. All of them. My eyes snapped open, a sharp glint within them. I walked to the corner and picked up the Emerald Phoenix pendant I had carved with my own hands. I looked at the object that had once held all my hopes. Without a moment's hesitation, I threw it into the roaring forge. The emerald cracked and popped in the intense heat, quickly melting into a pool of useless, glowing liquid. As the pendant was destroyed, I felt a 10-ton weight lift from my soul. The past was dead. From this day forward, I was no longer the Monroe's Ethan Reed. I was the alchemist. I sat down again. This time, My mind was clearer and calmer than it had ever been. I took the chunk of Stygian iron and placed it in a special crucible. Then, I took up the Aegis needles. The 12 golden needles seemed to come alive in my fingertips, transforming into 12 streaks of light that plunged into the iron in the crucible. Each insertion carried a subtle, powerful force. This was the first and most critical step, tempering the medium. I had to refine the internal structure of the Stygian iron to perfectly match that of the astral compass before I could attempt to fuse them. The process demanded immense mental energy. Beads of sweat formed on my forehead. Time flew by in a state of deep concentration. 3 days and 3 nights passed without me noticing. In that time, I hadn't eaten, slept, or drunk a single drop of water, my entire being focused on tempering the iron. Outside the loft, 2 of Ava's bodyguards stood like sentinels, 24 hours a day. Down the street, a black Rolls-Royce Phantom was parked discreetly. Ava Sterling sat in the back, watching a live feed from a hidden camera in my loft on a tablet. She watched the focus man on the screen, his pale face, his unwavering concentration. In her icy eyes, a flicker of an emotion she herself didn't recognize appeared. "Ms. Sterling, you've been here for 3 days," her assistant reminded her gently. Ava didn't speak, just waved her hand for silence. For 3 days, she had canceled every meeting, every appointment, just to sit here and watch. She couldn't explain why. Perhaps it was curiosity. She wanted to witness the legendary alchemist at work. Or perhaps it was something else. Just then, the figure on the screen moved. I suddenly opened my eyes, a bright light flashing within them. "It's ready," I whispered. With a flick of my right hand, the Stygian iron in the crucible rose into the air, now a hovering orb of liquid black metal. Ava's pupils contracted. Telekinesis. This was beyond the realm of ordinary human ability. I didn't pause. With a gesture of my left hand, the 2 broken halves of the astral compass also floated up, meeting the liquid iron in midair. Now came the most dangerous step, the fusion. I formed a series of complex hand seals. The 12 golden needles became a blur of motion, circling the 3 objects at high speed. By the axis of the world, by the law of creation, reconstitute. I chanted the ancient words as each needle struck a precise glyph on the compass. The entire loft suddenly vibrated with a strange, powerful hum. An invisible wave of energy expanded out from me. In the Rolls-Royce down the street, the screen on Ava's tablet went black. "What happened?" her assistant exclaimed. Ava's expression changed. She threw open the car door and looked up toward my loft. The sky above the old building was churning. The clouds were forming a giant vortex, as if something was about to tear through from another dimension. "This is bad." Ava's face was grim. "He's triggered a celestial event. Quick, lock down a 1-mile radius. Clear everyone out. And activate the highest level signal jammer. Now." She barked into her comms unit, calm and decisive. Her voice, however, held a note of undisguised shock. She had expected this to be difficult, but she never imagined it would cause a disturbance of this magnitude. This wasn't just restoration anymore. This was like some kind of ancient, powerful ritual. Though stunned, her team moved with practiced efficiency. Within minutes, the entire neighborhood was in a silent, invisible lockdown. Inside the loft, I was unaware of the chaos outside. My entire consciousness was focused on the compass before me. The fusion was far more perilous than I had anticipated. The violent energy that had shattered the compass was still latent within the fragments. It acted like a stubborn virus, constantly rejecting the energy of the Stygian iron. My reconstitution technique was in a fierce battle with this dark force. My body had become the battlefield. 2. I spat out a mouthful of blood, my face instantly turning deathly pale. The backlash from the dark energy had shot through the needles and into my own body. My insides felt like they were on fire. I can't stop. If I stop now, not only would the compass be destroyed forever, but the backlash would kill me. I clenched my jaw, bit my own tongue, and used the sharp pain to keep myself conscious. I pushed the power of the Aegis needles to their absolute limit. With my blood, I consecrate this vessel. Fuse. I spat the blood from my tongue onto the hovering compass. It was instantly absorbed. The The hum from the compass grew louder. On its black surface, the ancient glyphs began to glow, one by one, with an eerie blue light. Under the combined pressure of my blood and the reconstitution technique, the dark, repulsive force finally began to retreat. The liquid Stygian iron slowly seeped into the crack, perfectly bonding the two halves. The crack healed before my very eyes. It's working! I felt a surge of elation but dared not relax. The final step was the awakening. The needle was the heart of the compass. I diverted a fraction of my focus, shaping a small amount of the liquid iron into a new needle in the center hole. This required absolute precision. The length, thickness, and weight had to be perfect, or the entire balance of the artifact would be ruined. My vision started to go black. I was at my limit, but I knew I had to hold on. For my mother, whom I'd never known. For the truth that had been lost for more than 20 years. Form! I roared, using the last of my strength. The needle, forged from Stygian iron, finally took shape. It stood perfectly in the center of the compass, its black surface absorbing all light. The moment the needle was complete, the entire astral compass erupted in a blinding light. Every glyph lit up, and an ancient, powerful, and majestic aura exploded from it, shooting skyward. The roof of my loft was blown clean off. A visible pillar of blue light shot into the sky, connecting with the vortex in the clouds. Boom! A clap of thunder shook the entire city. Down the street, Ava Sterling looked up at the pillar of light that joined heaven and earth, her beautiful face a mask of pure shock. He did it. The light faded, and the vortex in the sky slowly dissipated. The loft fell silent again. Completely spent, I collapsed to the floor, unable to move a single finger. But a smile spread across my face. I looked at the astral compass, now whole and perfect, hovering in the air, radiating an even stronger spiritual energy than before. The alchemist had not failed. Just then, the loft door was kicked open. Ava Sterling rushed in with her team. When she saw the gaping hole in the roof and me, pale and crumpled on the floor, her eternally calm face showed a flicker of panic for the first time. Ethan! She rushed to my side and knelt down to help me up. Don't touch me, I rasped, and don't touch the compass. Its energy is still unstable. Ava's outstretched hand froze. She looked at the blood on my lips and my extreme weakness, and her brow furrowed. She took a small porcelain bottle from her pocket, shook out a single, fragrant pill, and brought it to my lips. Take this. I didn't question it. I opened my mouth and swallowed. The pill dissolved instantly, a warm current spreading through my body, mending my damaged internal pathways. I felt a sliver of strength return. What was that? I asked. A Sterling family continuum pill, she said flatly. We can only produce 3 a year. I was stunned. She had used such a priceless medicine on me without a second thought. Why did you need this restored? I asked, looking at the floating compass. This is no ordinary artifact. You didn't go to all this trouble just to find someone, did you? Ava was silent for a moment, as if debating what to say. Finally, she spoke. I needed to go to a place. What place? A place that doesn't exist on any map. Avalon. Avalon. The name hit me like a physical blow. I'd heard the legends from my grandfather. A mythical, hidden realm separate from our world. The home of ancient kings and magic. A place of eternal youth and powerful artifacts. A gateway to another world. I'd always thought it was just a myth and allegory. You believe in Avalon? I looked at her, finding it hard to believe. She was a corporate empress, a pragmatist. How about you believe in fairy tales? Belief is irrelevant, Ava said, her eyes growing distant and deep. What matters is that I have to go there. Why? Because 20 years ago, my grandfather disappeared there, she said, her voice laced with a sadness I had never heard before. And your parents? They were likely with him. My heart felt like it had been struck by a sledgehammer. My parents, with her grandfather, vanished in Avalon? How is that possible? What proof do you have? My voice was trembling. Ava took another photograph from her pocket. This one was even older, the backdrop a range of snow-capped mountains. There were 3 people in the picture. One was my mother, holding a baby. Beside her stood a handsome man with my eyes. My father. And standing next to them was a sharp, energetic old man. This is my grandfather, Julian Sterling, Ava said, pointing to the old man. This was taken just before they left. The location is at the foot of the very mountains said to hide the entrance. They told everyone they were going on an archaeological expedition. They never came back. I've spent 20 years using all of my family's resources to find out the truth. They were searching for Avalon, and this compass is the only key to opening the gate. Unfortunately, the one they took with them was a replica. The real one was hidden away by my grandfather. But for some reason, not long after he vanished, it shattered on its own. Ava looked at me, her gaze intense. Ethan, do you understand now? Our goals are the same. I want to find my grandfather. You want to find your parents. We have to work together. I was silent. The information was too much, too fast. I always thought I was just an orphan with a knack for restoration. I never imagined my life was tied to the myth of Avalon. Why should I believe a single word of this? I struggled to sit up, leaning against the wall. Because of this, Ava took the compass from the air. It was calm now, but the glyphs on its surface still pulsed with a faint light. She handed it to me. I reached out and took it. The moment my fingers touched the compass, something happened. The needle began to spin wildly, a black blur. At the same time, a flood of alien images poured into my mind. A vast, primordial landscape under a sky with two suns. Great winged beasts soaring through the clouds. Strange, robed figures performing ancient rituals. The final image was of a colossal bronze gate, carved with a single, glowing symbol. I cried out in pain, throwing the compass away and clutching my head. The visions were too real, too powerful, threatening to tear my mind apart. Ethan, what's wrong? Ava rushed to support me. It took a long moment for the visions to subside. I was left panting, gasping for air. I saw things. Impossible things. It's the bloodline memory, Ava said with conviction. Only someone with the proper lineage will awaken the memories hidden in their blood when they touch the compass. Ethan, you must believe me now. Your family is connected to Avalon. I looked at her, all my doubts erased. Those visions were not my imagination. When do we leave? I asked. As soon as you've recovered, she said, glancing at my weakened state. Then we have to retrieve one more thing. What's that? The other half of the key that opens the gate, the Wormheart Stone. At the same time, in a penthouse on Park Avenue, Blake Vanderbilt sat on a leather sofa, his face dark enough to curdle milk. A terrified, middle-aged man stood before him. You're telling me this Ethan Reed restored something and it caused a citywide power surge and a freak lightning storm? Blake's voice was like ice. Why, yes, Mr. Vanderbilt, the man, one of Blake's corporate spies, stammered. Ava Sterling locked down the story, but the event was too big. Thousands of people saw the pillar of light, heard the thunder. Useless. Blake hurled his crystal glass against the wall, where it shattered. A loser I wouldn't spare a glance, for has this kind of power? Ava Sterling. Ava Sterling, he spat her name like a curse. The humiliation at the party had made him the laughingstock of his entire social circle. He had lost Tiffany and made a mortal enemy of Ava. In the last few days, Sterling Industries had been systematically dismantling his family's businesses, costing them billions. I'm not finished yet. Blake's eyes glinted with a mad, vicious light. If I can't have what I want, no one can. Ava Sterling, Ethan Reed, you just wait. He picked up his phone and dialed a secure number. Hello, is this Acheron Corp? I have a business proposition for you. 2 targets, a man named Ethan Reed and a woman, Ava Sterling. Money is no object. I have only one request. I want them to disappear from the face of the earth. Thanks to the Sterling family's miracle pill and a team of private doctors, I recovered most of my strength in just 3 days. During that time, I stayed at Ava's private estate in the Hudson Valley, a place so vast it resembled a national park, with manicure gardens, private lakes, and architecture that put them in Rome Mansion to shame. But I was in no mood to enjoy it. My mind was consumed with thoughts of Avalon and my parents. Ava left me alone, giving me time to process everything. On the morning of the 4th day, I was in the courtyard practicing a set of meditative exercises my grandfather had taught me to heal the lingering internal strain. Ava approached, dressed in sleek white athletic wear. Without the severe business suit, she seemed less like an ice queen and more like a fierce warrior. You're looking better, she noted with a nod. Thanks to you, I said, finishing my form and steadying my breath. Are you ready? She asked. For what? To get the Wormheart Stone. Half an hour later, a private helicopter lifted off from the estate, carrying the two of us west toward the Catskill Mountains. Where's this stone? I asked, looking down at the endless green mountains below. Someplace you'd never expect, she said cryptically. The helicopter landed on a remote, flattened summit. The only thing there was a small, dilapidated monastery that looked like it had been abandoned for centuries. The characters on the wooden sign above the gate were faded, but I could just make out the words, Cloudfall Temple. This is it? I asked, surprised. Ava nodded and led the way inside. The temple was deserted, the courtyard choked with weeds. She led me through the main hall to a courtyard in the back. In the center was an old, dry well. Ava walked to the edge of the well and took out the restored astral compass. She placed it on the stone lip, then bit her own finger and let a single drop of blood fall onto the compass needle. The compass hummed to life, the needle spinning before finally pointing straight down into the well. The Wormheart Stone is down there, Ava said. Looks deep, I said, peering into the blackness. There's more than meets the eye. She retrieved a heavy-duty rope she'd prepared, secured it to a stone dragon carving, and said, I'll go first. Follow me. Without a trace of fear, she grabbed the rope and expertly rappelled into the darkness. I followed, right behind her. The well shaft was slick with moss. After descending about 150 feet, our boots touched solid ground. It wasn't the bottom of a well, but a massive, subterranean cavern, lit by glowing crystals that cast an ethereal light on everything. In the center of the cavern was a natural stone altar, and on it rested a bizarre, black stone the size of a car, shaped like a coiled dragon. It was covered in natural patterns and radiated an immense, ancient pressure. That's the Wormheart Stone. I was awestruck. Yes, Ava's expression was grim. According to my grandfather's journal, this stone was used in ancient times to imprison a great Wyrm that terrorized the land. After the beast was subdued, the stone was left here to act as its seal. How are we supposed to move that thing? I asked, eyeing the multi-ton boulder. We don't have to, she shook her head. We just need to take its heart. She walked up to the stone and placed her hand on its center. Closing her eyes, she began to chant under her breath, activating some kind of internal energy. A moment later, a golden light began to shine from within the black stone where her hand rested. Crack! A small, heart-shaped stone, about the size of a fist, broke away from the main rock. Ava caught it, her face turning pale from the effort. It had clearly taken a huge toll on her. Go, she yelled, stuffing the stone into her jacket and grabbing my arm. What's wrong? I could feel her urgency. With the heart gone, the seal won't last long, she said, her voice strained. As if on cue, boom! The entire cavern began to shake violently. From beneath the altar, a deafening roar erupted, a sound of pure, ancient rage that seemed to claw its way up from the depths of hell. A terrifying pressure washed over us, making it hard to breathe. Move! Ava's face was paler than I'd ever seen it. We scrambled for the rope and began climbing for our lives. The roaring grew louder, closer. A foul, black mist shot up from the well, chasing us. Just as we were about to reach the top, a monstrous black claw, covered in scales and as big as a manhole cover, shot out of the well and latched onto Ava's ankle. Look out! I yelled. Without thinking, I let go of the rope with one hand, pulled one of my golden Aegis needles from a hidden sheath at my waist, and thrust it down with all my might at the claw. Clang! The needle struck the scales with the sound of metal on metal, sending sparks flying. The creature roared in pain and retracted its claw. In that split second, I grabbed Ava and hauled both of us over the edge of the well. The moment we were clear, the entire back courtyard of the temple collapsed into a massive sinkhole, black smoke billowing out. Go! We didn't stop running until we were back in the helicopter, lifting off and speeding away from the cursed mountain. I looked down at the ever-widening sinkhole, my heart still pounding. What was that thing down there? I asked. The imprisoned Wyrm, Ava said, her color slowly returning. She glanced at my hand, which was trembling slightly from the exertion. A complex look crossed her face. Thank you. You saved my life back there. We're partners, I said simply. Ava didn't reply. She took out the Wormheart Stone. It glowed with a warm light, illuminating her pale face. Now we have both keys, she said, looking at me. 3 days from now, on the night of the full moon, the gate to Avalon will open. Back at the estate, Ava convened a meeting with her most trusted inner circle to begin final preparations. I was ordered to rest. The WRM's claw hadn't touched me, but its terrifying aura had aggravated my internal injuries. As I meditated in my room, I replayed the events in the cavern. The claw, the roar, and Ava's cool resolve even in the face of death. This woman was full of secrets. She was more than just a CEO. She knew ancient techniques, the secret of the Wormheart Stone, and could even remove its heart with her bare hands. Her own history had to be deeply intertwined with Avalon. For the first time, I felt a sense of caution around her. Were we truly just partners? 2 days later, my injuries were healed. Ava's assistant brought me a set of custom-made expedition gear, along with a file. "What's this?" I asked. "Ms. Sterling asked me to give this to you." "A personal gift," the assistant said respectfully. "It's a transfer agreement for 5% of Sterling Industries stock. She has also used her connections to create a new identity for you. You are now the company's second largest shareholder and chief technical advisor." I opened the file and saw the astronomical numbers, but I felt nothing. "Tell her I don't need it," I said, pushing it back. "Mr. Reed," the assistant said, looking troubled. "Ms. Sterling insisted you accept. She says what you deserve, for restoring the compass and for saving her life." I fell silent. This woman was always finding ways to bind me to her. Also, the assistant handed me a tablet. "Ms. Sterling thought you might find this interesting." I took it. The screen was playing a news report. Sources confirm that the Vanderbilt Corporation is under federal investigation for massive financial fraud and racketeering. CEO Franklin Vanderbilt and his son, Blake Vanderbilt, have been taken into custody. The Vanderbilts had fallen? It had only been a few days. I knew Blake had crossed Ava, but to dismantle an empire that size so quickly, it was almost impossible. Unless the reporter in the video was interviewing an anonymous source who claimed that the key evidence against the Vanderbilts had been leaked by an international mercenary group called Acheron Corp. Blake had hired them to assassinate me and Ava for reasons unknown. The mercenaries had double-crossed him, handing over their entire unholy alliance to Sterling Industries. I watched the news with a cold smile. Blake had sealed his own fate, but it also gave me a new appreciation for Ava's power. She was even more formidable than I had imagined. That night, Ava came to see me. She was dressed in a black, form-fitting tactical suit that highlighted her perfect figure. "Did you see the news?" she asked. "I did. Blake Vanderbilt wanted us dead. I simply gave him what he deserved," she said, her tone as casual as if she were discussing the weather. "Acheron Corp. I bought them," she said, once again shattering my perception of what was possible. She bought a world-class mercenary organization. How many more cards was she holding? "Let's go." "It's almost time," she said, cutting off my questions and turning to leave. On the estate's helipad, a modified military transport plane was waiting. Besides us, there were 10 heavily armed operators with cold, hard eyes. They were the absolute elite, handpicked from Acheron Corp. "Can we trust them?" I asked. "They follow my orders, and my orders only," Ava said with complete confidence. The plane took off, flying west toward the vast, snow-covered mountains of Alaska. After a long flight, we landed at a secret base hidden in a remote valley. From there, we switched to snowmobiles, following a guide deep into the Alaskan wilderness. The further we went, the more treacherous the terrain became, and the air grew thin and bitingly cold. The mountains around us took on strange, unnatural shapes, as if carved by giants. Finally, as the full moon reached its zenith, we arrived in a massive, circular valley. In its center was a lake, its surface as still and reflective as a black mirror. Under the moonlight, the water seemed to glow from within. "This is it, the Mirror Lake, the entrance to Avalon," Ava said, staring at the moon. She took out the astral compass and the Wormheart Stone. She fitted the heart-shaped stone into the center of the compass, where the needle had been. It clicked into place perfectly. "Vimum," The compass erupted in a light 100 times brighter than before. A brilliant blue beam shot from it, striking the center of the lake. The calm water began to boil and churn, forming a giant whirlpool. At the center of the vortex, the water parted, and a shimmering gate of pure light, 100 feet high, slowly materialized. The Gate of Avalon. It was exactly as I'd seen it in my bloodline memory. The gate is open. Go! Ava yelled, sprinting toward it. We followed close behind. But just as we were about to step through, the night exploded with the sound of gunfire. 2 of our operators fell silently into the snow. Ambush! Ava shouted as we dove for cover. A storm of bullets rained down on us. From the shadows of the valley, 100 figures in white camouflage emerged, surrounding us. Their equipment was even more advanced than ours, and walking calmly through their ranks was a familiar, horrifying figure. Tiffany Monroe. She was wearing an expensive fur coat, her makeup perfect, but her eyes were filled with a crazed, venomous hatred. Beside her stood a man in a golden mask, his features hidden. Ethan. Ava. Surprised to see me? Tiffany's laugh was a venomous hiss. Did you really think I'd let you just walk into Avalon? Tiffany? What are you doing here? I stared at her, my mind reeling. This was one of the most remote places on Earth. How did she find us? What am I doing here? Her voice rose to a shrill cry. I'm here for you, my dear former fiancé. Her eyes, filled with jealousy and rage, locked onto mine. You liar, Ethan. You lied to me for 10 years. You had all this power, this secret, and you pretended to be a loser? Did you enjoy watching me make a fool of myself, pushing you away just so you could run off with this bitch? Her accusations were so twisted, so delusional, I could only laugh. I never lied to you, Tiffany, I said coldly. You were just too blinded by your own greed to see anything else. Shut up, she screamed, still making excuses. You think I don't know what Avalon is? The secret to eternal life. And you were going to share it with an outsider instead of me. Today, none of you are getting in. The secrets of Avalon belong to me. I looked at her as if she were a stranger. The woman I once loved had been completely consumed by her own venom. You think these hired guns can stop us? Ava's voice was like ice. Her remaining Acheron operators had already engaged the enemy, a fierce firefight lighting up the valley. Oh, I brought more than guns, Tiffany sneered, turning to the man in the golden mask with a look of fawning reverence. Allow me to introduce the Oracle of the Conclave. The Conclave. Ava and I exchanged a look of grim understanding. We had both heard whispers of this ancient, secret society, one even older and more mysterious than the Sterling family. They were said to be the guardians of the world's greatest secrets, and Avalon was chief among them. The daughter of the Sterling clan and the boy with the blood of the artificer, the man's voice was a low, resonant hum from behind the mask. Avalon is not for you. Leave now, and I will spare your lives. The blood of the artificer? My mind raced. You seem to know a great deal, Ava retorted, holding up the glowing astral compass. Unfortunately for you, the gate is already open, and no one stops me from going where I please. Insolence, the oracle boomed. He slowly raised a hand. As he did, the blizzard around us intensified into a raging vortex of snow and ice. Thousands of razor-sharp icicles materialized in the air behind him. Begone! With a sweep of his hand, the storm of ice shot toward us. This was not human power. This was magic. Into the gate. Now! Ava screamed, grabbing my arm and pulling me toward the light. The remaining Acheron operators formed a human shield, turning to face the impossible barrage. The icicles hit them with sickening thuds, and in a heartbeat, all 8 men were cut to ribbons, their sacrifice buying us the single second we needed. No! Ava cried out, seeing her men fall. But it was too late. We plunged through the gate of light, the storm of ice just inches from our backs. The Oracle and Tiffany followed right behind us. The world dissolved into a dizzying tunnel of light and color. When my vision cleared, the sight before me stole my breath. We were no longer in a frozen wasteland. We stood in a valley bathed in eternal spring. The air was thick with the scent of flowers and an energy so pure it was almost tangible. In the distance, mountains floated in the sky, with waterfalls cascading from their peaks and great white birds circling them. It was a paradise beyond imagination. "This is Avalon," I whispered. "Stop." The Oracle and Tiffany appeared behind us. He looked at the impossible landscape, and even behind the mask, I could feel his avarice. At last, "I am here." "Oracle, kill them." Tiffany shrieked, her eyes wide with greed. "Then we can find the fountain of youth." The Oracle ignored her. His gaze was fixed on the highest floating mountain, upon which sat a magnificent golden palace. "The fountain of youth is nothing," he murmured to himself. "With the heart of Avalon, I will become the master of this realm." He shot off toward the palace, a blur of golden light. "Oracle, wait for me." Tiffany scrambled to follow him. "We have to stop him," Ava said, pulling me along. We raced toward the palace. We had to find our families before he did. My intuition screamed that if he got his hands on the heart of Avalon, it would mean the end of everything. The palace was closer than it appeared. We reached its gates in moments. The great doors were open, and above them, carved in an ancient script, were the words, "The Hall of Eternity." We burst inside. The hall was vast and silent. In the very center stood 3 crystal coffins. They were transparent, and inside them lay 3 figures, a handsome man and a gentle-faced woman, my parents, and in the third, a sharp, energetic old man, Julian Sterling. They all looked as though they were merely sleeping. "Mom, Dad," I ran to their coffins, my hands pressing against the cold crystal, tears blurring my vision. "Grandfather." Ava was at her grandfather's side, her voice choked with emotion. "We had found them, but why were they here? Were they alive or dead?" "Ha ha, there it is, the heart of Avalon." The Oracle's triumphant laugh echoed through the hall. He wasn't looking at the coffins. His eyes were locked on a throne at the far end of the hall. Hovering above, it was a crystal the size of a human head, pulsing with a rainbow of light, like a living heart. It radiated a wave of pure life force that was staggering. The heart of Avalon. That was it. I stared at the pulsating crystal. Just being near it, I could feel the last of my injuries knitting themselves back together. It was a wellspring of pure life. Yes, the Oracle's voice was thick with mania. Once I merge with it, I will gain eternal life and become a true god. He started toward the throne, his hand outstretched. "You will not touch it," Ava shouted, drawing a thin, flexible sword from her belt and lunging at him. "The light of a firefly dares to challenge the sun?" The Oracle scoffed. Without even looking, he swatted a hand back. An invisible wave of force slammed into Ava, sending her flying across the hall. She crashed to the ground, blood spilling from her lips. "Ava." I rushed to her side. "I'm fine." She coughed, her eyes still blazing with defiance. "We can't let him get the heart." "Ha! And how will you two stop me?" The Oracle laughed. He turned his back on us and continued his slow walk to the throne. "Oracle." Tiffany ran in, her eyes immediately fixing on the heart with naked greed. "My lord, you promised me immortality." "Begone, you insignificant insect." The Oracle waved a hand dismissively. A gust of wind sent Tiffany flying into a marble pillar, where she crumpled to the ground, unconscious. He had no more use for his pawn. I looked from the approaching Oracle to my parents in their crystal prisons, my heart pounding with desperation. Ava and I together were no match for him. Was this it? Just then, a faint, ancient voice echoed, not in the hall, but inside my mind. "My son, use your blood." On the crystal. I froze. Whose voice was that? "Hurry. We cannot hold the seal much longer." The voice came again, filled with urgency. I looked at the 3 coffins. It was them. They weren't dead. They were communicating with me. Without a second thought, I bit my finger and pressed a drop of blood onto my parents' coffin. Seeing my action, Ava seemed to understand and did the same, pressing her bloodied finger to her grandfather's coffin. The moment our blood touched the crystal, all 3 coffins erupted in a blinding, holy light. The light shot to the ceiling, converging into a massive energy vortex above the hall. No, the Oracle, whose fingers were inches from the heart, was thrown back by the blast of energy. He stared in horror and rage. The lids of the 3 coffins slowly slid open. My parents and Julian Sterling opened their eyes. Their gazes were clear and sharp, filled not with confusion, but with the wisdom of ages. "My son, you've finally come," my mother said, her smile gentle, her voice filled with love. "Mom, Dad," I was choked with emotion, unable to speak. "Ava, my dear, look how you've grown," Julian Sterling said, his eyes filled with pride and love for his granddaughter. "Grandfather," Ava wept openly. You're alive?" The oracle stammered in disbelief. "Alive?" my father said with a cold smile. He stepped out of his coffin, and an aura of power rolled off him, 100 times stronger than the oracle's. "The guardians of the Artificer bloodline do not die so easily." "We were not dead, but in slumber," Julian Sterling explained, stepping out as well. "Using our combined strength to maintain the seal on the heart of Avalon, waiting for our descendants to arrive with the keys and awaken us." "Guardians? Seal?" The oracle's face contorted in horror as he realized the truth. "Then, the heart of Avalon isn't a source of power. It's a—" "That's right," my mother interrupted, her voice turning to steel. "The heart of Avalon is the heart of an ancient, interdimensional demon. It doesn't grant eternal life. It consumes the soul of whoever bonds with it, turning them into a mindless monster. Our 3 families have been the guardians of this place for generations, ensuring it never threatens the world of man." "No, it can't be. You're lying," the oracle screamed, his mind broken. "You were blinded by your lust for power," my father said, a hint of pity in his voice. "The Conclave was once a guardian clan, like ours, but your ancestors succumbed to temptation. Today, we put an end to your heresy." My father, my mother, and Julian Sterling took their positions, forming a triangle around the oracle. "By the power of Avalon, be judged," they chanted in unison. An invisible field of energy snapped into place, trapping the oracle. He screamed in agony as the golden light was stripped from his body, revealing the twisted, terrified face of an old man beneath the mask. "No, my power." With one final, desperate cry, he disintegrated into dust and vanished. The energy faded. The Hall of Eternity was silent. I looked at my parents, who seemed like gods, and felt like I was in a dream. "Come here, my son," my mother beckoned. I walked to her, and she gently stroked my face. "You've suffered so much." The tears I'd held back for 28 years finally broke free. Nearby, Ava and her grandfather were reunited. With a wave of his hand, Julian Sterling sent the unconscious Tiffany out of Avalon, her memories wiped clean. She would live out her days as a normal person, her ambitions and greed turned to smoke. It was a kinder fate than she deserved. "Mom, Dad, what happens now?" I asked. "The seal on the heart has weakened," my father said, his expression solemn. "We must remain here to guard it. Avalon can never be left unguarded." My heart sank. We had only just found each other, and now we had to part again. "Ethan," Ava walked over to me. She looked at me, her usually icy eyes now filled with a deep, warm emotion. She glanced at our families, then back at me, a soft, beautiful smile on her face. "We have to go back," she said. "They have their world to save, and we have ours." I understood. Their duty was here. Our life was back there. I walked to her side and took her hand. It was warm and strong. Together, we turned to our families and bowed deeply. Then, without looking back, we walked out of the Hall of Eternity, hand in hand. Outside, the sun was shining, and the air was sweet with the promise of a new beginning. End.